Welcome back to Don't Trust the Sports, where the takes are hot, the stats are loose, and the credibility, yeah, that's still pending review. We're three armchair analysts with Wi-Fi and way too much confidence, and today's episode is stacked like an SGA stat line. First up, the Thunder heading back to the NBA Finals at my Timberwolves expense, and we're asking the question, is this the greatest rebuild in modern NBA history, or did the West just fall asleep? Meanwhile, the Pacers are one game away from crashing the party too. We break down how they're doing and whether the Cinderella run is the real deal or just a lucky dance through a broken bracket. Switching gears, could Paul Skenes actually be on the trade block? Pittsburgh fans might want to cover your ears. Then we head to the NFL with a team preview of the New England Patriots. Will Drake May save Foxborough, or are we looking at another season of Belichick less purgatory? And we close it out. We dive into some follower submitted hot takes. And trust us, some of y'all are either geniuses or completely unwell. We'll tell you which. It's chaos, it's conviction, it's completely unreliable, just the way we like it. This is Don't Trust Us Sports.
What's up, boys?
Fellas, how we doing? My hosts, Herb and Big Rob.
What's up, fellas? I'm doing good, man. Good week.
Apologies for last week, fellas. I'll admit to the listeners that's technical difficulties on me. So technically, what episode is this? Technically,
See, that was going to be an offline conversation because I was going to ask you the same thing when I had to go about titling this podcast when we uploaded it.
Of episode 2 are entirely my fault. 2.5, baby.
Just
2.5 out live. Here we go. No.
We're gonna post it as episode 3, and people are gonna be scrambling.
It's got to be 2, right?
What the hell happened to episode 2?
Or is that the lore? Is that the lore if this thing ever gets going? Oh, okay.
What happened?
Welcome to episode 3, folks. That's a major decision.
But guys, I know what we need to start with, and it hurts the shit out of me. I'm not going to enjoy any of it, but
buckle up, baby.
My Minnesota Timberwolves got slapped around like I don't even know the best analogy to put it, but that had to have been one of the most horrific game for a fan of a team in an elimination game. That was I can't even put into words.
I wish you would.
How disgusted I am. I'm fucking pissed. I'll be honest. I'm pissed.
Thank you. There it is. Finally, let it out.
That is
fella.
What happened last night is completely unacceptable in professional sports. You are telling me these athletes who are getting paid millions of dollars, who have an opportunity, that are playing for their lives, have the opportunity to play for the NBA Finals, God forbid, if they win 3 straight games, and they go out and they get absolutely their penis just pounded in repeatedly for 2.5 hours.
For those of you playing, don't quote us bingo at home. You can cross
it was
on your bingo card. Thank you. Get him.
It was
get him.
That first quarter, man. To score 9 points in a first quarter. I've seen some nice WNBA games in my day, and bro, it was bad. And I know that in the first episode we talked about how with no skin in the game, I just wanted to see some good basketball. I wanted to see some 5-point games, just back and forth. And unfortunately, this series didn't give us a whole lot of it, finishing at 4-1. But if you look at the rest of the game, man, it was just, for me, I told Herb I turned the game off shortly after halftime. I mean, at halftime, I gave them a little bit just to see if they just had a crazy comeback. But body language, I mean, I've seen clips of like Julius Randle getting the ball stolen, the one I seen earlier, and just not even chasing down after the ball. I think Julius Randle was telling his family to go home with like 8 minutes to go in the game. It was just a dumpster fire, and it's embarrassing for the sport. It's embarrassing for basketball, for the competitive nature of the game. At least give us your all. I think we looked in the backups were in it 8 to 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter in an elimination
Game 5.
game. Even if you're down, man, I want to see competitive. I want to see some competitive spirit out there. At least you're going to Cabo tomorrow. Go out there and give it your all, man. It was just it was
Dude,
rough to watch.
honestly, it should have been punishment for the starters. They should have had to go out there and play in the entire fourth quarter just for an absolute, just a punishment, a ridicule to end the season with how fucking bad they played in that game. Because, like you said, Rob, I don't know if I've seen a player play a worse quarter of basketball than Julius Randle in the first quarter of that game. The dude was just forcing everything. He was just trying to big body everybody and turn the ball over probably at least 4 times in the first half.
I think he had 4 in the first quarter.
Made one 3-pointer. The first, yeah, and to say that was counted for almost half of our points of that quarter, it still doesn't get easier
Rob, how
to
many
say.
did they score in the first quarter?
It was 9, bro.
Many? Hold on, how many?
Low prior to
9 in a game 5. Winner,
one short
didn't
of 10.
Even hit double digits. Rob, I'm going to be honest. I thought you were going to crucify him. You put on the kid gloves there. Whatever that was. Go ahead. I wish you would. We said we were going to. We have to. We owe it to the people.
I mean, it was an embarrassing showing. Yeah. I mean, I wanted Anthony Edwards to show up, man. I just, for the sake of the game, and the internet's going crazy with, is he that guy? We've heard the last 2-3 years that, he's showing signs of MJ, of Kobe, of a superstar, and then to go out in a game like that. And I get it, man. You had Jaden McDaniels going I think he was 1 for 9 at one point. I think Naz Reid had 5 turnovers at one point. I get those things come and go, and you can't rely on those. Your role players that kind of step up, and a lot of championship teams, you have those role players step up, and that's why they win. But also, you need your superstars to go out there and just give it all show why you make $40 million a year. And Rudy,
he got played off the court. The dude couldn't even play with how OKC was dictating the game. They just forced him off the court.
I'm going to stand by what I said about being one of the best shot blockers to ever play the game. But holy shit, did Rudy Gobert suck. Sucked. We talked about it. Every time he gets the ball, he's like an infant. He's like a toddler.
Dude, they all sucked. It
was so abysmal. It was again, Isaiah, this isn't against you, but that was one of the most embarrassing basketball games I've ever seen in my entire life. It's trash. No effort, no energy.
Dude,
they gave up
after
after the first
the
quarter.
most from that game. Yeah, the thing that stood out to me, or that I remember the most of that game, was after the first quarter, they did a Mike Conley sideline interview, and he was just like straight up. He's like, "Yeah, it just doesn't seem like we have the energy."
You can't
you finished 0 points
for game 5. Do me a favor, pack your shit and go home.
Right.
I'll bring G leaguers in that
exactly
that are getting aroused by the idea.
Like, I know there's Wolves fans out there that are putting some of the blame on Finch and whatnot, but at some point, the players have to take responsibility for whatever the hell that was last night. It was pathetic inside and out. Like I said, professional athletes, we deserve better than that. Like, I'm not saying that we definitely should have won that game, right? Because we have professional athletes, so do they. But we definitely should be scoring more than 72 points or whatever it was, especially in a game, winner-go-home scenario, It's like they were already in Mexico at that point. They literally took our team and sucked the life out of them. It was kind of like Space Jam, and then they just lost all their skills.
Oh,
and now we're playing the Monstars.
so the Monstars done bitch it. That's why we didn't show up for Game 5. Woof. That's I mean, we got to talk about.
I wish I had.
We got to talk about.
I wish I had.
And that's the part that sucks because I think all three of us want Ant to be a superstar. I don't think anyone here doesn't want that to happen. We've talked about, does he want to be the superstar? Does he want to be the face? Probably not at this point. But while I get what he was trying to say in the post game interview, but Rob and I have both seen it.
All right. The quote went as follows. He said, he was basically asked, with 4-1 going out, how do you feel? He said, it's exciting. I don't know why people think I'd be hurt or it would hurt. It's exciting for me. I'm still 23. I get to do it a whole bunch of times. Hurting is a terrible word to use. I'm good. That's the end of the quote. Now, he did go on to say, to his credit, I will say that he did go on to talk about Mike Conley. He went on to say, I don't necessarily hurt, but I feel for Mike Conley because Mike Conley, this could be his last game, And so he went on to say that, but as far as people are clipping the it's exciting, to get knocked out 2 years in a row, 4-1 Western Conference Finals. He basically played it as, I'm still young. I got plenty of years to go. Not keeping in mind,
32.
obviously, Mike Conley's older. I think Rudy Gobert's 32. I mean, when you're talking about core, which these teams all have these cores, it seems like he's just like, I'm good. And it's like, it was just kind of alarming. I think I was hoping he was going to tackle it from a competitive standpoint and be like, you know what? Like, I need to get better.
None of that.
I got to make changes this offseason. And they did go in and ask him, like, what are you going to do this offseason? What are you going to do this offseason to kind of change your game or get better? And he's not going to reveal all of his secrets, but it was just like I'm not telling you that. And then it showed him in the hallway dabbing up people. It was unfortunate. I would have rather had a head low and sneak out the side entrance kind of thing and know that you're going to come back and be stronger. It just didn't feel like they lost a Western Conference Finals for the second year in a row.
You can't answer for it.
Yeah, that quote
shouldn't feel good.
Is mind-boggling.
Shouldn't feel good.
No, and I think that goes back to my point on Ant is I love him as a player, right? I think will be a top 5 player moving forward for a very long time. But there's times like this where it just shows his lack of leadership and maturity at this age. And I don't know if it's expecting too much out of a dude that's 23, 24 years old, but you got to take ownership of you just got beat 3 out of 4 games by 30 plus points. It's like you guys didn't even show up, and you're making it seem like it's a foregone conclusion or a given that every single year we're going to be in the same position where we're making Western Conference Finals with a chance to make it to the NBA Finals, right? For a chance at a championship, which is the furthest thing from the truth. You can look back into the halls of history of how many players go through stretches where they're lucky if they even make it to one NBA Finals, let alone win it their entire career. And he's out here making it seem like this is going to be a yearly occurrence for us, and eventually we will break through. Like as if he forgets that the Thunder are still in the Western Conference.
They're not going anywhere.
And they, if he forgot, are the youngest team in the NBA, and they're not going anywhere. They just kick the shit out of you, And there's nowhere we can look this offseason where we can immediately get better, Like we're pretty locked in with this roster, Hopefully we can bring, depending on if we can bring Randall, Naz Reid, and I think it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker back. Those are really the only moves that we can make, and then hoping like Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr. take
so
that next step.
That's where the future of the T-Wolves are holding on to.
So That's tough.
So,
it hurts.
So the T-Wolves
hearing that,
are hanging
I feel
on
like
to this is the crew that's got to get it done. They just have to figure out how to do it after they haven't been able to do it for 2 years.
essentially, I feel like they're kind of locked in to this kind of lineup or roster construction until that Rudy contract comes off the book.
The issue, something that came to mind right after the game, because obviously Cat is in the playoffs and obviously playing as we speak and playing pretty well. I think that trade comes into consideration, right? Because I think from the Timberwolves' perspective, you went into we either got to get there probably wasn't a lot of buyers for Gobert, but you got rid of Cat and you still went to the conference finals and lost 4-1. And you have all these other teams, the OKCs of the world, these other teams. I think the Spurs are doing something special. You got these other, not even just in the Western Conference, but it seems these teams are building these young rosters with 2-3 guys that are going to be their focal point. And when I look at the Timberwolves, I see Anthony Edwards. And obviously you have Julius Randle, who has a player option. I have no idea what he's going to do. You're lingering onto a Rudy Gobert contract. There's no reason Rudy Gobert is the highest paid player on the team. It's just I don't know where they go from here. I guess I'm not as familiar with their draft picks and things like that, but it's going to be a weird spot for a couple years, I feel like. And obviously, Edwards is still young, so I'm like, I get where he's coming from. Where I'm
It's
still
not a
23, I'll
guarantee.
be back,
It's
kind of
not a
thing. Like I
guarantee.
like that mentality, but I don't like it in
He
that
might never go
circumstance.
back to a
Like,
conference finals
there's
again.
no guarantee that he will
that's a
be
reality.
back.
He might not ever go back to the Western Conference finals.
Like I would like,
which is crazy to say, but that's the truth of the NBA.
like I refuse to believe that there were any instances in which Kobe or MJ were going to a post-game press conference of a series that they just lost with that kind of attitude. They're pissed, I'm sure. That's the mentality they had, you know? They were cold-blooded killers and they hated losing. Hated everything about it, you know?
And I think if we look at it from the other side too, where OKC is like they're in such a great spot. I mean, we got to give them flowers. They have their draft pick last year that's highly touted that hasn't played yet. You got both Jalen Williams.
A
You got
million
SGA
picks in the
obviously leading the
future.
way. Chet's only really played technically almost a year and a half, 2 years in the league. They're adding Hartenstein, million picks. That GM is obviously the GM of the league, but it's like you see a team like that that's just so set up for success with what they've built. And then like even my Phoenix Suns or Minnesota, it just takes one bad signing or one bad overpay, one bad trade to really fuck you up for the next 3-4 years. Because if you wanted to get off Rudy, there's probably not a chance in
Who's
hell
taking that
after his
contract?
playoffs that you're going to
Nobody.
be able to get off of him. And for all we know, Julius, wants to sign maybe to a
So
championship caliber team.
I mean, I would be surprised if anybody took it, but I'm not going to be out here and say that it's impossible because look back, nobody ever thought that was it the Chris Paul contract from when he was in with OKC, and then they were able to flip him to Houston and got first round picks from him, and they took the entire
I don't think
salary or
anybody's
whatever.
doing that for
Nobody
5
thought that was
points a
going to
game.
happen.
You know
So I'm
what
not
team would take him?
probably the
What
Suns.
team loves to sign? What team loves to sign centers and overpay?
The LA Lakers.
The
Oh
Lakers
my
love to
God,
pay
that is
centers and
such
overpay for centers, baby. Tell the Lakers to
crazy.
give them a call.
Let me
I mean, they've paid
wow.
centers over
Let
the
me
$40 million's a lot, but
let me say
I don't
this
know
real
any other
quick.
team
Okay, I
that would
got
be
2
willing to
points
give
to
it a
make.
chance.
One, if and when, because I think it's going to happen, Julius Randle decides I'm not going back to Minnesota, I'm going to hit the open market. It is undoubtedly 100% the Knicks won that trade because they got just as far and they got to keep their guy. I don't think Julius is going back. Not after the last 2 games where it looks like he doesn't even want to be on this team. My second point is this, and it's about the Ant quote. You said you wouldn't hear Kobe or LeBron or Michael say that type of thing. You know, especially when you wouldn't see them say that after they just shot, 38% and 1 for 7 from three? You're not playing like a superstar. That's where it comes in to frustration. And like you said, Rob, I like the mentality of, hey, we're getting back. Again, there's no guarantee, but like, dude, in that moment, you didn't play a good game. I won't call it terrible. You didn't play a good game. And it showed in a big way. We talked about Ant needs to come take over this game. Be a hero, but not play hero ball. He didn't play any kind of ball. All right, I'm done. I'm done taking a big dump on the T-Wolves.
Nobody on the team did.
The forum that the last thing I'll read about, or the last thing I'll say about Julius Randle, about his player option, I think it's at $30 million, which sources are thinking that he's going to not take the $30 million and try to get more elsewhere, because he resigns for $30 million. You know, you got Ant making 40 something, you got Gobert making 42, 41. He's going to want to either get paid more or, you know, go to a team that's going to give him 35, 40 million a year, was kind of where it was hinting at. Not to say that they're going to figure it out. Maybe give him an extension of some sort,
Julius
but
Randle
that's
hitting
kind of
the
where it
open
was
market.
hinting at.
Yeah, I don't think he will opt in to that contract. But again, I don't know other teams' salary cap and where they stand. I would be shocked if there's a large number of teams that are even able to offer him that amount of money. That
Hey,
he's
I'm sure the
hinting at.
Washington Wizards have the
So
money.
that could force his hand a little bit. But I will give Tim Connolly, our GM, our director of basket ops. Yeah, he'd be perfect there. But Tim Connolly, I'm gonna put all my trust into him. I have the last couple of years, ever since he came over from Denver, and we've kind of flipped the switch as a franchise. He seems like he's constantly making the right moves. So I'm just gonna hold my breath and let him do his thing for this offseason. But like Rob said, got to talk about the Thunder. They were the better team this series, without question at all. And it's not that I was looking past them going into this series, but I thought we had played them pretty well in the regular season, splitting the regular season matchups 2-2. And 3 of those games we didn't have Rudy, Julius, or Dante DiVincenzo in the lineup. So I figured with all 3 of them in the lineup, things could be different, right? But no, they weren't. The Thunder went out there and they showed you why they are one of the best teams in modern NBA history. Point, period, end of
They are
story,
the
end
new
of
Warriors.
sentence
I
right there.
think that this is what is becoming, and I think it really is, which is crazy to know where they were when the head coach took over. What, they go 22 and like 40 something. They had 2 years of 20 wins, and all of a sudden they just exploded. SGA, clear cut MVP. There's a reason. Rob and I spoke about this offline, but I don't want to ever hear an SGA free throw merchant bullshit ever again, because the man had 32, 34, 36 points and only shot 4 free throws. He was absolutely on fire, and a guy who I think they needed to come to life and really did the last 2 games, and I think he probably was a big part of the difference was Chet. Chet found the offensive game. Chet scoring 20 to 25, you're in a good spot. Yeah, dude, the Thunder are dominant. I think if they play like that defense that they were putting out there, it's going to be hard for either the Knicks or Pacers to beat them in the finals. Well, yeah, I mean, I picked Pacers in 5.
We both know it's going to be
Looking
Pacers,
pretty
baby.
good.
Yeah, we don't have to beat around the bush on that. But I agree. they just have, that's the thing with the Thunder. They just have so many secondary dudes that any given day they can step up. There's games where Caruso will go out there and score you 20 points. Chet might score you 25 points. Jalen might drop a 30 piece on your head. And then they kept saying it on the broadcast. They are going 10 players deep, and every single one of those players in their rotation is an absolute menace on defense. Like, the defense that they are playing, it never lets up. Like, some teams are used to, like, okay, first unit's in, they got a suffocating defense. But when the second team comes in, this is our time to like, pounce on them, right? There is none of that with OKC. It is that same on-ball bulldog mentality for a full 48 minutes of basketball. And I don't think it's part coaching, but that's just players that are taking pride in their craft, in the absolute, like, team
They're everything
element
Thibodeau
of the
wants.
sport, you know? And that's something I think we can all agree on is great for basketball. Like, it's not great for me as a Timberwolves fan.
They're everything that Thibodeau wants the Knicks to be honest with you.
Yeah. But I would say, yeah, and I think you comparing them to the Warriors dynasty from a couple years ago, this is even scarier. Like, that was Steph Curry, a 30 plus year old Steph Curry when that was happening. SGA is their oldest player, essentially, outside of
And they're
Caruso,
locked in.
who's only 30.
They are locked in
and
for the
he's
next
26.
2 years.
That is, dude,
The next
you
2
could have
years alone, they are
8
locked
years.
in on every single core player.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 through 10 are all locked in for the next 2 years, either own a player option or whatever it is. And I think 9 of the 12 are locked in for that third year after that, plus a bazillion picks, plus probably some cap room this year, next year. But then they'll have to pay these contracts. Dude, I don't want to think about OKC. Like, that's good luck if you play in the Western Conference playoffs. I'm glad I'm a Bulls fan.
Dude, and it gets to the point where these dudes are going to come up for contracts. They may end up just trading them and using all these draft picks to get another young dude on a rookie contract.
Like, if they don't want to pay Jalen Williams in 2-3 years, whatever, I think it's 2 years left on his contract, they don't have to.
The only thing I'll add, I was going to say the only thing I'll add is the only time it'll get iffy down there is if, Jalen Williams, one of these role players, thinks, their head gets too big, which it doesn't. Their chemistry they have down there seems great. Just you can tell by the interviews and things like that. But if one of them gets their head too big and they want traded and that always happens to certain teams. Other than that, I don't see a thing where Shea's going to get a max. Everyone's just trying to get paid out, man. That's the thing of the NBA now. They got a good thing going, and what did I mean? I don't necessarily agree with the Warriors' take. I think it's possible. I think the Warriors rode off the back of 2 great shooters. Then obviously Kevin Durant won them 2 rings, and I stand by that. But early prediction, you heard it here first, that OKC either win or lose the finals, they trade for Kevin Durant next year. They bring my boy home.
The return.
They give us a couple picks. They take over his contract, and they bring him home. Let him sail off into the sunset. He gives him 2 years. Who he can mentor Chet down there. It's if you pay KD whatever his contract is for the next 1-2 years, and you get to mentor those young guys down there, and I feel like you would fit in for some reason. I mean, it's all positives, especially as a Suns fan. Go ahead and take him, bro. Let him ride off into the sunset. I want that for his career. That's just the reason I brought that up is you mentioned Warriors, and that's what happened to the Warriors. He went there for 2-3 years and then got 2 rings and then bounced.
Plus, the storylines just write themselves.
Scripted, baby. It's all scripted, baby.
Yeah.
Guys, one final thing I'll say. About this series, and then we can jump over to Eastern Conference. So with last night's loss, that extends Minnesota, or Minneapolis specifically, their championship drought to 125 seasons spanning 33 years. Should be 34 years, I'm pretty sure. Haven't won a title since the Twins won the World Series in 91. So this fun Minnesota fan report card I am looking at says, "Did you know if you started rooting for the four Minnesota teams 20 years ago, your overall fan experience would be an F, and you'd be in the 99.9 percentile for fan suffering?"
It's a tough time to be from the land of the lakes or whatever they're called up there, baby.
Oh, they stink.
I knew it was bad, but reading it like that hurt so bad.
For a long time.
They stunk.
Wow.
They stunk. And,
the Lynx.
and before any WNBA fans get up in my grill saying how the Lynx have won championships, I can't go around bragging that the Lynx won championships.
I'll
to
get
my
you a
buddies.
Maya Moore jersey if you want.
You don't have a Lynx jersey?
I need to be able to brag about the big boy sports.
That would be
Maya
sick,
Moore,
though, Loki.
Minnesota Lynx
Would
home
accentuate
jersey.
my muscles.
I'm gonna get you one. Merry Christmas, buddy. I'm gonna get you one. Mm-hmm. We're locked in. You wear what, a small?
Sounds like I got a Christmas present.
Oh, extra small. Yep.
XS.
I get that. I'm very
Really
similar.
like them tight.
I'm very similar.
Yeah, or maybe a medium.
Oh boy. Easy. Yeah. Pause. All right.
Herb knows about extra small, baby.
So switching gears over to Pacers Knicks. Who wants to lead it off?
I mean, I can take it. I mean, I've only because I chimed in about what I want from the playoffs with obviously my team out of it. This is a series that it's good basketball back and forth. We've seen surges from both. Cat had a really good game last game. We've seen Tyrese have really good games. Siakam have really good games. It seems like good basketball all the way around. The games have been close, respectfully, like 6 points here. I think the last game was 9 points. One game was 5. This is playoff basketball in my eyes. We've had some big moments, but as a whole, I think the Pacers are going to take it. I think they finish up the series tonight. So we'll check in obviously next episode. But Tyrese Halliburton played out of his mind last game. I think he had
he was
15 assists and no turnovers.
He was an assist away from a triple double at halftime.
Knicks are, and it's not saying the Knicks are. Yeah, and then it's not, and I'm not saying the Knicks. Like in our last, obviously in the Western Conference, we were dreading on the Timberwolves. The Knicks aren't playing bad. It's just that I feel like these role players for the Pacers are just stepping up. Whether it's Naismith, obviously Siakam has to do what he does, and then obviously we had Benedict do what he does. So I think it's a good series, man. I think it's over tonight. I could be wrong in that, but I don't really have much to add besides that. I mean, it's you're seeing what you expect out of Brunson. You're seeing what you expect out of Cat. The guys are showing up, and it's just 100%. The better team wins. That's kind of my analysis of this series.
This is really going to be the twisting of a knife if Cat goes out there tonight, for a Minnesota sports fan, if Cat goes out there tonight and just puts on a masterclass type game. That will make last night's loss, or series loss, 10 times worse. Because I feel like, and I don't know for sure, I haven't been following super closely, like watching the entirety of all these games, but it seems like he's been playing very well, especially in the games that they're winning or keeping close. Like they essentially won the one game that they did because of what he did in the fourth quarter when he dropped 20 points. You know, um, I do think the Pacers are in a very enviable position. Like, how often do we see a 3-1 comeback? Not frequently, but the one thing the Knicks do have on their side, they have tonight's game at home, and then if needed, game 7 at home. Obviously, they didn't look great the first 2 games at home, but I would much rather have home court advantage in situations like that than being on the road, especially in Indiana, where we can see the environment is
Do you think
just
anybody's actually
next
like
level.
legitimately upset with Pat
But
McAfee at the
I
halftime?
think
Speaking about like the Indiana
this
environment,
series,
is anybody like actually upset about him calling those New Yorkers out for being there? So
what do you say?
No.
I missed it.
He basically went
Ben
in front of
Stiller.
every. So Spike Lee, Timothy Chalamet was there, a couple others, and they were kind of getting the crowd up before the game, and he kind of went up and said, like, let's
From New
basically,
York.
we got people
Yeah.
from Minnesota here, let's send them back home, where they belong, type of thing. I liked it. Pat McAfee said he didn't script it. He just kind of let it go. The crowd loved it. I like that, man. From a fan perspective, it's like playing when you're playing for instance, like NFL, when you're playing in Philadelphia, it's a hostile environment. You're not going there for handshakes and love. And if you're a
You're
fan
gonna
from
take
the
some heat.
opposing team and
You're
you're
gonna take
sitting
some heat.
front row, I mean, it's just if the announcer calls you out, you're gonna take some heat, man. It's part of the game. So personally, I love it. I think it's good for the game. I think it creates, a little hostile environment for away teams to come in there. So plus, for a town like
Yeah, you think that's the
Indianapolis,
friendliest
I
place?
love it, man. Because
You think
obviously on
that's
the
the
other side they
friendliest
have
place in the
Madison
NBA to
Square
play?
Garden,
Like,
which
get
is
out of here.
obviously a monster in
And
itself.
what they were upset about, Pat McAfee calling them, get
Yeah,
these sons of bitches out of here. That's Pat McAfee. Like, you came up to him, you asked him to hype up the crowd. He's going to hype up the crowd. They're blowing that thing out of proportion. If Ben Stiller really has a problem with that, do me a favor, Ben. Stay at Madison Square Garden.
That just shows kind of the disconnect between an average Joe like the three of us and famous people. If you are not going into a playoff series like this, talking
Yes.
the most smack ever,
Yes.
pronouncing your team as the second coming of Christ, then you're not a true fan, right? Like, you are ride and die at this point of the season. I am going to be talking shit so hard to support my team, whether or not that
Yeah.
it's founded by any
Yeah.
means.
Whatever.
Who cares?
In terms of the game, though,
I'm still gonna ride with them.
Rob hit on a lot of it. I mean, the Knicks aren't playing bad. The Pacers are just playing a hell of a lot better. They're moving the ball a hell of a lot better. They're playing better defense. I said a while back, Siakam averages 20 and 10. I want to give you boys a little update where we're at, averaging 26 and 5. Fair trade off. I'll take the extra 6 points for the 5 rebounds. I'll take that. He'd have to get like 20 rebounds to get to 10.
yeah, and these games, I mean, when you got a 6 or a 9 point game, I mean, that's a couple possessions. So like, even if Knicks aren't playing great, let's say Pacers are playing better, take a couple possessions or a 2 minute drought that one team went through. That's the get difference. It's very minimal in the grand scheme of things. A couple missed shots from Brunson or 4 shots from Brunson, but it's super close, man. I'm enjoying it. Obviously, when we're done with this pod, I'm gonna jump in and catch the second half of the game. But this is what I expect out of a Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, I'd love it to be a 2-2 or a 3-2, but I really just think that the Pacers get it done.
Live update on the game right now. Knicks are up by 8, halfway through the second, and something that I was not expecting to see are the Knicks have DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet. on the court right now. And you guys might have to keep me honest here. I don't know if that's happened yet this series. And I also don't know if
I'd
that
agree
is
probably
the way
not to
to
play.
win
They
a
have
win or
played
go
quite a
home
bit the last
game
2 games.
by
DeLon
playing
Wright
those
for
two.
sure. Somebody made a joke. One of these ESPN reporters made a joke that Thibodeau couldn't play 9 guys in a baseball game, and then immediately the next game, Thibodeau. Did you like that one? Immediately the next night, Tibbs plays 11 different dudes for significant minutes, including Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright. So they're getting tick. Are they making a difference? I mean, DeLon Wright's an old school 3-and-D, but like DeLon Wright feels like he should have been playing in 2012, not 2025. I don't think Pacers in 5, baby. Pacers in 5.
And also, when I look at it, doesn't surprise me at all, because when I look at their bench outside of Precious, I mean, they don't have a deep bench. Yeah, they don't have a deep bench. And obviously, I'm familiar with Landry because he played for the Suns. He's gonna go out there and get you a nice little filler minutes, like 4 or 6 points a game is probably what he's averaging. And obviously Wright is a little bit less than that, but that's how I see it. They're just coming in, they're giving Brunson a breather. That's kind of where, and if obviously with the lead, with an 10 point lead, you can do something like that. And if it gets a little closer, then Brunson checks back in. That's kind of where I think their head is. Obviously, I don't know what Thibodeau's thought process is, but that's probably where I would lean if I think what they're trying to do, because there's really no one else on that bench. Cameron Payne, obviously Precious hasn't played.
Shoe
PJ
game
Tucker
kept him in the league, brother.
In my eyes, should have been out of the league
Instagram
3-4
loves
years
that dude's
ago.
feet. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna make the same
Terrible.
point. Like I said that before realizing how bad their bench is. I just figured that Thibodeau in a win or go home scenario like this, he's gonna go down with a sinking ship that is his 7-man rotation.
Landry Shamet.
Like he's done it up to this point. What's the point of changing it? But who knows? We'll see what happens. One thing I want to do for this series, and we had done this for the listeners in a practice episode of Would You Rather with and it's a Therese.
Hey, for those listening at home, Rob is biased
Iowa State, baby.
As a Cyclones
so essentially
fan.
The question is, would you rather
just be prepared for that? Come on now.
Not true. It's a terrible disclaimer. Go on, Isaiah.
So essentially, the game here goes, I'll say a similar player in the NBA, might be a point guard, might not be, and I'll leave it to you guys. Would you rather have Hallie, or would you rather have the player that was named? You don't have to provide any context if you don't want to.
The caveat.
Let's just get an idea based off the postseason.
One quick question.
Right now.
For 1 year or for a career? Just one. That's it. I get this player for 1 year or for a career?
Current state, that player moving forward.
All right, go on.
So let's start with, would you rather have Hallie or would you rather have Trae Young?
Hallie.
Would you rather have
close.
Hallie
it's
Dame Lillard?
I'm close.
Hallie.
10 years ago, it's Dame without a question.
10 years ago might have been a different question.
Would you rather have?
Answer.
Come on.
Would you rather have Hallie or
Hallie.
De'Aaron Fox?
Hallie.
Hey, they both play for the Kings, though, too. Go on.
Wow.
Hallie,
without hesitation, he says it. With a grin on his face, he says it.
D-Book all day.
Really?
D-Book's also a shooting guard, so it's a little bit different. But I mean, I'm a Suns fan, and he's our franchise leader in points. He's led us to obviously we didn't win it, but the NBA Finals. So as a fan, of a team that hasn't had a lot of success,
Booker is so
I
good.
just got to lean Booker. I just have to.
Booker's so good. The potential of Halliburton.
What do you guys see?
Is so interesting. Give me Hallie.
I think you do. And Rob, you might have to keep me honest here.
Better than you think, but not great.
Of a defender, Book is, but that could potentially be the tiebreaker there. But I feel like Booker's better scorer. But the question in my head is who makes the rest of the players around them better, and part of me leans to Hallie. Just being able to get everybody involved, but there's games like game 4 where he just can take over a game and do everything asked of him, be a scorer if he needs to.
And the only thing I will say, obviously me leaning Booker is he's 28 years old. It feels like he's been in the league for 12 years because he came out when he was like 18. But Book, I feel like is just more of a pure scorer when it comes to that. I think without looking, he probably averaged 25 to 27 a game. And there are nights when Halliburton gets you 4 points, 6 points. Now, they might still win the game and other players scored. But for me, I need a pure scorer that I know is at least going to go out and get me 20 every game. That's just how I'd build my team.
Okay, next one. This will be a good one. Hallie?
Yep.
Or Jalen Brunson?
That's one, isn't it?
Second team
that is the one, isn't
team, it? All NBA point guards.
Oh,
Hallie.
I think your team situation, not even close.
No, not even close.
Wow.
Say it with your whole chest.
No.
Wow.
All right, I'll break it down for you. Jalen Brunson on the court. It says he's 6'2", but he looks 5'10". Plays little to no defense.
Wow. Wow. I tell you what, I don't know how you ever lose an argument. That is just such compelling stuff.
Tyrese is 6'5".
He's short and his defense is worse. It's not even close.
You want a guy?
Thank you.
Tyrese averages more assists. Tyrese averages more rebounds. He's an all-around better player. I thought it's pretty apparent. Evidently, you guys don't see it. To say this is close, I thought Devin Booker was closer than this.
Wow. Okay.
He's just a scorer, and that's generally, if anyone's a free throw merchant, it would be Jalen Brunson, to be honest with you.
Case closed. I tell you what, you should take the bar.
It's not close.
No,
Yeah. Do you want an all-around player, or do you want a guy to just score?
I think I will take Halliburton.
Herb, are you in the same boat on that one?
Significantly better. They're both very, very comparable, and maybe even Jalen has a little bit of an upper hand in terms of facilitating the ball. Hallie's defense, and Jalen's can't guard a 6'8" guy, or he shouldn't be at least. Like Caruso doing that at his height is such a specialty thing to do.
Anybody.
So Halliburton could guard Chet if he absolutely had to. It'd be tough, but he could do it. I don't think Jalen could say the same. I'll take Hallie, but it is close.
I got 2 left here, and I think they're actually pretty good ones. Hallie.
Tyrese is nice.
Or Tyrese Maxey.
Hallie.
Okay.
Oh,
I think
know who it is now.
This one could have been answered differently a season and a half ago, but Hallie or Mr. Choppa, Ja Morant.
I'm taking Ja.
Actually,
if you take off the court things away, I'm taking Ja.
Hey, because he's 6'3" and plays defense.
Give me the. I need more here now. I wasn't expecting that.
Did you?
He gets more points, more rebounds,
From
and
the
averages more
president,
assists.
you may have been demoted to vice president now, but from the president
Isn't
of the
that pretty
Tyrese
simple?
Burton Cyclone fan club, that is shocking and incorrect.
This just shows the show that I'm not biased, like you said earlier. It's not incorrect. Now, I said if you take
Hallie
off
for
the,
sure,
Morant might
Hallie
be
for
done.
sure averages way more
I mean-
assists. He led the league in assists this year.
Ja Morant averaged 7.3 assists, and Tyrese averaged
Give me Hallie.
he averaged 9, but he only got you 3 rebounds
Give
and
me
18
Hallie
points.
without a question, without a shadow
Give
of
me
a doubt.
26
Give me
points,
Hallie.
baby. I need more points.
Oh, Jesus.
I did say
Well,
if you
took
take
away
away
Jalen Brunson's
off the
height,
court
we'd be having a
issues.
different conversation.
Sorry, I'd like
For those listening, at the beginning of this segment, I was told that I was going to be
You
super
want that on the
biased.
record?
I just want to put that back in there.
Oh boy! Wow. Yeah. No. Tyrese Halliburton.
Well, fellas, we'll see. We'll see if the Pacers pull it out
What are you saying?
or not. But yeah, it sounds like Tyrese has definitely moved his way up the food chain this postseason. But going over into the MLB, we won't spend too much time here. But I think we need to talk about the controversy that is the Pirates and Paul Skenes. Because there's rumors out there right now that maybe not, Paul Skenes potentially could be on the block. Granted, he has multiple years of arbitration or of team control. I want to say it's at least 4 or 5 years possibly of team control left for a dude that's arguably one of the best pitchers in the entire league already. I don't even know how you begin to gauge what that is worth in trade value.
I don't have a lot to add to this. I mean, I've looked into it. There are definitely some trade things out there, and it, like you said, it's wild and it's kind of borderline impossible. Unlikely, I guess, is a better word. For me, looking at them, I mean, there's not a lot going for the Pirates outside of Paul Skenes, obviously, looking at their record. But, I don't know how you trade away a player of that caliber now. I think you build.
It's Garrett Cole,
and hopefully
2.0.
They learn from their mistakes.
This is Garrett Cole all over again. And it's the story of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
But I think even Garrett Cole, he only had maybe another year or two before free agency. This would be a first where a player of Paul Skenes' pedigree with that amount of team control being on the block, that's never been seen before. And it probably never will be seen again because teams aren't stupid. Why the hell would you trade Paul Skenes? Like, the concept in itself is ridiculous. You've gotten what, maybe 25 starts out of him since he got called up middle of last year? You're telling me after 25 games in 4 or 5 years of team control, you don't think in 4 and 5 years you can put a relevant team around him to compete? I already know that they have young dudes, pitching prospects on the come up. Like, their rotation in 2-3 years could be one of the best in the league if these kids pan out. It's just figuring it out on the offensive side of the ball. Can they get, like, O'Neal Cruz has had a really good season thus far. I think he's kind of teasing at that potential people thought he might have when he was called up. But they've been picking so high in the MLB draft, you have to imagine that there's some position players in the pipeline ready to make an impact. Because they're not going to go out there and make a big trade for a big name or an impact bat or sign a free agent. So it's all got to be in-house. But I think to not even think that you could potentially put a playoff caliber team around him and to essentially throw up the white flag and try and restart your rebuild, I guess, already
And
just seems absurd. It's crazy to me.
Today?
Also,
Hey,
I want to
birthday,
add,
Paul.
it's Paul Steen's birthday.
Oh, perfect. Happy birthday, Paul.
Where we're at.
Yeah, he turned 23. I was just trying to see his age to see, like, if he was. I know he's been in the league since 2023, but it's
See,
too
and I'm
early
the
for
opposite.
me. I mean, it could happen. Who knows? I
I'm
just
the
feel like
opposite.
it's
I
way
think
too
they do have a
early.
lot of guys on the come up, but they are
23 years
lacking
old, young
big
cat.
time offensive weapons for their farm system. I think you got to look at it if you're the Pirates. Can we build a team around him? They've proven that they can never do that. They can never build a program around any ace that they've had, it feels like. So why not go get the most value before he blows that arm out and has to go do Tommy John or whatever surgery they're doing nowadays on these guys? So the value's there. I mean, they're looking at 2 to 4 prospects plus picks plus probably cash for Paul Skenes. There's teams out there that are in the hunt that need pitching now. And the cool thing about Paul Skenes is he can be a winning pitcher today. Like, he's already developed into one of the best pitchers in the league. So what's to stop the Boston Red Sox or the Detroit Tigers from, who are both in the hunt, from going and getting this guy? They've got the number like 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 farm systems. Like, they have the prospects. I could see them going, and obviously the Yankees, Dodgers, and Cubs are all going to be in play if this thing gains real traction.
Yeah, but to preface, in the MLB,
Yeah,
you rarely see draft picks traded. It's all prospects. But that gets back to the question of where do you even start in valuing Paul Skenes? Because to me personally, I think you're asking for at least one, if not two, big league ready players, if not already big league players, like serviceable players, along with at least four of a team's top 10 prospects at a minimum to even get the conversation started at that point. And to be honest, I still don't even know if that's enough because you're banking so much on these prospects to be anything, and that's the crapshoot that is the MLB. Like, there's, like, you saw with PCA when the Mets traded him to Chicago for, what was it, 60 games of Javi Baez. Looking back at it, There's no shot in hell New York's making that
Paul
trade,
Skenes,
knowing what they know now.
I think he's moving. You guys don't. I think he's on the move. I think the Pirates need to get everything that they can for him, and I do think that's 2 to 4 major prospects and some picks, as unlikely as it sounds. But watch out for those Chicago Cubs, interdivisional. We've got a bunch of our prospects up in the leagues proving themselves now. Paul Skenes becomes a Cub. Look out. Dude, the Pirates are such a dumpster fire that I don't think they give a shit.
They're not trading Paul Skenes interdivisional, bro.
I would be shocked. Their owner,
I don't think they trade him in general, but I don't think they trade him to one an NL team, let alone a.
Hey, one thing before we get off
baseball
team. Oh, go ahead.
If they do, yeah. I was gonna say, if they do end up trading him, which knowing the Pirates, I do think very much is a real possibility. I think it will be another year
injuries stay
before
away.
Those conversations are real.
He blows that arm, they're in trouble.
Not just rumors. Yeah. That's the one thing he does have on his side, though. That's the one thing that he has on his side, though. He hasn't been a full-time pitcher for his entire life. Like, up until, I want to say it was his sophomore or junior year of college, he was
throwing that hard,
playing both ways.
Throwing that hard is fucking
like
nuts.
All-league catcher.
One thing before we get off baseball, though. Okay, are you guys familiar with the Polo Grounds?
But what else you got on baseball?
The historic site, New York. You're familiar with that? big news. The MLB is working to rebuild it two-dimension in terms of
they're
field
gonna
size,
build it
not
back up.
necessarily because it was like a 70 or 80,000 person stadium or some nonsense like that. It was massive. It's not going to be capacity to scale, but the outfield walls at like what are you looking that up, Rob? Like 500 feet?
Was that?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that the field from the baseball games we would play, where down the lines it's like
I'm fairly
180
certain
feet,
that
but
is the
then
Polo Grounds
dead
that you're
away
thinking of.
centers like miles away?
It's going to be
Yeah, it
used
looks
like
like
the Field of Dream field.
What do they plan on using it for?
They're gonna use it like you know how they do.
My bad.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, they're gonna be using it for like special games, 1 or 2 games a year. Looks like it was a field from the late '80s into the '90s, and they played baseball, football, and other sports there. But it was demolished really early. I mean, it looks like it was demolished in 1989, or sorry, 1889. But yeah, it looks like it has some crazy history, and I don't know what they're gonna do with it because like when they did Field of Dreams, it's not like they built crazy stands and things like that. I think it's just gonna be more for like think about it like a Hall of Fame game for the NFL. That first game of the year. It's just a special game. That's kind of what I took for it. I think it's kind of good. It's good for the game.
Apparently, they have the green light. Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of looks like it's in Manhattan, right by Central Park.
Who knows?
I was gonna say, where the hell do they even have space?
That's crazy. They'll be sick.
Something of that.
That's one of those I'd like to attend.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would be interesting though. I won't lie.
Hell yeah.
Okay, NFL. We got team number.
Rob does have some breaking news that he broke to the group a few hours ago.
Do we want to talk Rob's breaking news?
We'll call Rob's breaking news.
Or Rob's news in general.
Yeah, I mean this is something that's been picked up. I think NBC had an article on it, but I haven't really seen it. Again, I don't watch SportsCenter or anything like that, but I haven't seen it, all over TikTok or clips and things like that. But
the two that already
we have 2 players. What was the name of the other guy? Herb, I forget his name. The linebacker
from UCLA. He's on the Browns.
I got Jaden Higgins for Iowa State and Schlesinger. Yeah. Basically, they went early second round, and they both signed fully guaranteed deals. So that's the first time in history that they were signed fully guaranteed. And what the reason this is, if you ask a casual, it's like it's not that big of a deal. Maybe the Texans just have faith in Higgins and are fine with giving him a fully guaranteed deal, even though he either might flake out, although he won't because he's from Iowa State. But basically, what this has caused is the other 30 players from the second round to not sign a deal. So it's almost like it's led to a collective holdout, I guess you could say. We saw that with the Bengals earlier is it Shamar Stewart for the Bengals? Holding out, not wanting to sign his rookie deal.
But he's a first-round pick, so he's a little bit different.
Yes,
his contract's
that's
already
different.
Guaranteed.
That's different, and obviously the Bengals are just in a bad situation. But now it's just a trickle-down effect, because I think Jaden Higgins' contract is almost $12 million, which is $3 million a year, fully guaranteed. I love seeing players get paid, but to fully guarantee a contract now to these teams, $2-3 million here, $2-3 million there is not a big deal. But to have 30 players hold out are we just going to see all the other teams follow suit? And then now it's going to be the new thing. And then what about next year when
rookie contracts?
For some reason, yeah, and then it leads to the top 4 rounds.
I mean, in the same breath, though, if you're one of those 30 other second-round picks, no agent in their right mind, after seeing those 2 contracts, like, what are they supposed to do? Like it's like the Deshaun Watson contract with fully guaranteeing that contract for quarterbacks, and we continue to see it now, where somebody set the precedent, and now that's what every single player is going to be fighting for, and they have a point, like the precedent has been set. Why should I ask for less, especially knowing the injuries associated with football? It's one of the most dangerous sports you can play. There's no guarantee you even get a chance at a second contract. And you might not even make it through your first season. And the rest of that contract that you had signed is gone. It's voided. You're not getting a dime of that. Right? So I'm kind of on
I'm not
board
mad
with
at the players about it. I'm
these
mad at the
guys, to be
dumbass
honest with you.
GM down in Houston
I
that decided
compared.
to set this precedent. He didn't have to do the guaranteed. I even wonder if Jaden Higgins came to them and wanted guaranteed, or they just threw it on the table for shits and giggles. That's such a dumb move, and it really screwed this whole thing up. Go ahead, Rob. Let them know.
I did look at a quote. I try to see. I agree with Herb. When I think about it, I think about when a player resets the market when they re-sign a contract, right? Sometimes it's crazy and out of hand, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And then what happens? All the other teams follow suit, and now a right tackle's worth this much, or a left tackle's worth that much, and obviously in every position. But I think I see it from both sides, where I think a dumbass decision. Keep in mind, love Jaden Higgins. I think a dumbass decision by a GM shouldn't make 30 or 31 other teams be like, you know what? Let's us make a big fucking dumbass decision. I also don't know what the flip side of it is. If they, if they do hold out, I don't know the schematics of it. I just think when you get to these precedents, and I'm all for players' rights and players' money, and give them their money, and the NFL makes a shit ton of money. The players deserve some. But not every second round pick turns out to be somebody. And obviously 12 million nowadays in the NFL is not crazy overall. But if a player goes out there and, like Isaiah said, it is a dangerous game, man. We don't know what can happen any play. Blows out his knee, that team's on the books for 12 million. And 12 million isn't really a lot, obviously, with the salary cap pushing 300 million. But I think we're going to see if this does become precedent. Now second round picks fully guaranteed as well. Because, in some drafts, you see a team, and I mentioned this to Herb earlier, but sometimes you see a team reach. Maybe there's a player that dropped that probably should have been first round, but now they're second going into the third because maybe they had an injury in college or off the field issues, and you see a team reach for that because they know it's not fully guaranteed deal. If anything, they just use up a draft pick. That kind of wipes that off the board. It just, you draft a second round pick now. It's a guy that you have 100% confidence in, which obviously a team should, but it's just, I'm undecided on it, man. I'm happy for the players. I just don't like the trickle down effect that we see when these things happen. And also, what
What
does the
can they do?
NFL do?
NFL
Do they
can't do
talk to
anything.
this GM and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Or they can do a lot behind the scenes,
No
I
chance.
think. But
I definitely don't
No
think
chance.
they can start manipulating or
no,
dictating
they can't.
player
But
contracts. I
I
feel like that
just,
is a lawsuit from the NFLPA. Like you're just asking for it at that point.
it's just a weird situation all around, man. I just hope it doesn't trickle down to we're seeing fourth round picks that are at a Bowling Green getting a fucking $10 million deal. I just don't want to. I like the started from the bottom, now we hear type mentality where, like, look at Brock Purdy, for instance, making 700,000 or whatever he made, and he made it. He got paid and got. It's just a good story. But that's all I got to say on the matter. I figure we got to talk about it. I think it's bigger news than what
Yep.
seems to be, but I imagine all these other teams are going to pay it. And then from here on out, we're just going to see second round picks fully guaranteed.
Yeah, I looked into it, Rob, after you, because I was unaware that was even going on. And I looked it up, and that is the most unsigned players from a specific round like this
Yeah, these
far
guys are
into an
hurting.
off
Like they're
season.
not. Their development is
We started
hurting. You
OTAs
need
on
some of
Monday.
those second round
By
guys to either
a
play
very long
significant minutes, or
stretch.
some of those teams are looking at their guys to be starters in the second round. Yeah, dude, and they're hurting themselves to a point.
Some of these guys are supposed to be starting. Yeah. And also, like, rookie minicamp was what, 2 weeks ago? Rookie minicamp was obviously the last few weeks, and we have full blown vets and everybody showing up this week for OTAs. And like, this is when you're getting the, I've been watching the tapes, obviously for the Packers, and you're getting the starter reps out there. You're getting a feel for what your team is building around. And if you got these second round picks that, whether it's a running back that's probably going to start, that's usually who can start out of the second round. A corner that's probably going to get started. You're just not getting reps, and it's just whether the holdout's a week or 2 weeks, a month. I don't know, but I just don't think it's good as of right now. Hopefully, it wraps up soon. Either way, whatever it goes. Worst case scenario, we see a player not. Do the agents of those other 30 teams or 30 players? Do they form a collective and say, "Hey, nobody sign a non fully guaranteed deal"? Because if 5 of them sign non-fully guaranteed, then you're looking at the player like, it's not just a second round thing. I don't know, man. It's weird.
It could get
The
ugly
salary cap's all a fugazi
really
anyway,
quick.
but it's just a weird fucking situation.
Let's get into this preview though. You said we're staying in the AFC East, right?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
All right, boys.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Herb, I'll let you take the lead on this one. I know you put the notes together. We are going to be talking about the New England Patriots. I do know that much, but I'll let you run through
we are going to be
departures, and
Rob,
picks
if you've got it
are
pulled up, you may have to
if
correct me on
that's
some of
okay
these.
with
I
you.
got to spitball it. You got it pulled up? Yeah. It'd be better if you did, just because I don't have it in front of me right now.
I can go through it if you want. I have it all up here. Yeah. All right, baby. We got the New England Patriots, the dynasty of the 2000s. All right, AFC East. Key additions we got here, some big ones. We got Mike Vrabel, Herb's former coach, coming up there to Foxborough. We got Josh McDaniels coming back, obviously the OC of all those big seasons up there. We got Terrell Williams, a DC guy that's very familiar with Mike Vrabel and down there in Houston. Stephon Diggs, controversy in itself already. But Stephon Diggs is making his way up there in Foxborough. We have Bradbury. We have Harold Landry. Herb's really familiar with him from Tennessee. Carlton Davis, the starting DB from the Lions. We have Milton Williams, a defensive tackle. We have Morgan Moses, right tackle. We have Robert Spillane, who I love. At linebacker, we have Mac Hollins, used to play for the Bills, who we covered last episode. And we have
former first-round pick,
Kalavion Chisen, defensive end. I think that's how you pronounce it. So those are the additions. You guys want to give thoughts on those, or you want to go through it all together?
I mean, it wasn't a lot.
Departures as well.
There
wasn't many. They didn't really lose a lot here from departures. I mean, they were kind of starting from the ground up last year.
Hey, happy retirement,
they lost their
Jack
starting
Andrews.
center. He'd been the starter up there for quite a few years, and Jack Andrews. They lost Jacoby. Yeah, and then they lost Jacoby Brissett, just a nice locker room cat that they have in there, a nice little backup quarterback. They lost, looks like Davon Godcho. It's defensive tackle. Yeah. Jonathan Jones, defensive back. And then through their draft picks here, we all know most of their draft picks, but I'll go through them quickly. We got the big guy, big cat, Will Campbell, left tackle, going to be the starter up there out of LSU. Speaking of second-round picks that we did earlier, we have Travion Henderson, the running back from the national champions, Ohio State. Buckeyes. We have Kyle Williams.
State, yeah.
Is that that's the wide receiver that they loved out
Kid's
of
a burner.
Washington? Or was Zoo, as Herb put on here? They had a backfill that center. We have Jared Wilson out of Georgia, and then we have Brady Swinson, a defensive end out of LSU. Thoughts, questions, concerns? What are we feeling, boys?
One big name that you left out of the departures. They traded Joe Milton. We'll never know. We will never know.
When you said big name, I really thought we forgot somebody. I was like, who the fuck did we leave off?
Hey, Week 18 Joe Milton last year was
electric.
Fantastic.
It was electric.
Overall,
now I'm gonna go back up deck.
You want to go? You have a hot take on this?
But go Herb.
I might.
No, hit me with it. I think I know where you want to start. We might as well just start with the Stephon Diggs controversy before we even get into the actual breakdown of the moves themselves. I think that's where we start. So, Herb, hit him with the background.
Stephon Diggs is on
what's
his
going on in Diggsy's world team.
Right now. Third team in 5 years. Stephon Diggs. There was all the allegations about Cardi B and she's pregnant. And there's an affair and all this. And then he's spotted courtside with Cardi B. Okay. Whole world's accepted he's with Cardi B. And tell me why 2 days before OTAs start. Now, granted, they are non-mandatory OTAs, but they are OTAs nonetheless with a brand new team and a new head coach. A video surfaces on the internet of Stephon Diggs surrounded by 3 women who should be described as thirsty, I think is probably the best term. They couldn't keep their hands off of him. He's an attractive man. I get it. Cardi B was not one of these women. So if they are dating, that's alarming. And casually, allegedly, she was on the front of the boat, which is just like that's
she was on the front of the boat.
A whole nother thing. But real casually, Stephon Diggs pulls out what looks like a small pouch of possibly a powdery substance of some kind. It could have been. We don't know. We weren't there. Couldn't tell you.
Creatine.
It's a terrible look. Oh, is that what that is? He's sticking to
he's doing his front loading phase, baby. That's all.
No, I get it. But then 2 days later, he's a no-show at OTAs. And
loading up for the season, off-season stuff.
Allegedly, the Patriots have spoken with him. They are aware of the video. But he's a no-show, and the way that it sounded in press conference interviews, the Patriots were not aware he was not going to be at non-mandatory OTAs. It's a bad look.
Before getting into it, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm fairly sure he's fully cleared. I thought he had talked about that in his press conference when he signed with the Pats. I thought.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I was just curious. Because if he is able to practice, I think there is more of an issue here, especially entering a new team coming off of injury. But if he is injured and he's doing his rehab still wherever he's at, I'll give him a little bit of leeway. But I agree. The video does not do him any favors, especially with how the last couple of seasons have gone for him.
Absolutely.
He went from being a top 5 receiver in the league, and he has just plummeted since, either between injuries or just character concerns, that I feel like over the course of his career have constantly been downplayed as he just really likes to win, blah, blah, blah. Cancer. At that point, it's just bad for team morale when you're on the sideline screaming up and down about you're not getting the ball or because the offense isn't playing that well type of thing. So with all that being considered, I don't think there's a worse time this video could have came out for him, especially because I'm pretty sure his his deal with New England? Is it essentially a
Rob's
1-year
digging into that
contract?
right
Or
now.
is
I thought
there
it was a 2-year.
a couple years?
I thought it was a 2-year. 3 years. What?
Okay.
35 million.
Yeah,
'Cause
they
I was
gave
gonna
him
say,
3 year.
What'd they pay him, Rob?
Because I was gonna say if it was a
3
1-year
years,
contract,
69
it's even
million. He's
worse.
doing allegedly doing
69.
illicit drugs, surrounded by
3
Instagram
years,
baddies
69.
on the back of a yacht.
Yeah.
2 days before OTAs. Rob, you probably would have been there.
I'll give you my take on the situation. My take on the situation, I know Isaiah has a bad taste in his mouth from him not being with Minnesota. I love me some Stephon Diggs, baby. Outside of last year when he was injured, I don't think he's had a season under 1,200, 1,300 yards in probably 7-8 years. But the only concerns I have, obviously, I think it's an issue. Obviously, I think Vrabel handled it very well, saying, we're handling it in-house. He really didn't give him much to work with. I do know that he was at practice the week prior, more of a voluntary type situation. But the article that I read, like Isaiah's concerns was we don't even know if he can practice yet. The article hinted that he can't. I don't know either or, and I couldn't find whether or not he can. But either way, I agree for morale. It's not great. Obviously, it's not a good look. It's not what Robert Kraft likes up there in New England. We all know that. But I have faith. I've come around on Vrabel, which I'll speak on in a minute when we cover the team. But I have faith in Vrabel to handle the situation accordingly. If he thinks he truly is a locker room cancer and he's not going to come around, Irv shaking his head, I think you agree. I think Vrabel has all the power to mend the situation if need be. So while I am concerned with that he's possibly, allegedly doing creatine on a boat,
Allegedly,
other than that, I have faith in him. He's also 32. We got to keep in mind I think he's almost 32, 31, 32 years old. So a 3-year deal is going to probably put him at 34, 35. We definitely might see some regress, especially after an ACL or a leg injury.
Honestly, maybe this is a bigger play. Diggs actually got this controversy to put all the attention on him. So then there's less focus on Drake May coming into what is going to be a pivotal.
Hey, can you grab your tinfoil hat for me?
Development. Like it's all part of the bigger picture. Think about it.
Thank you. Put it on. There it is. Thank you. Conspiracy theory. No, the reality is that Stephon Diggs is one hit away from being Antonio Brown. Plain and simple. He is one major concussion away from being Antonio Brown. And it's getting a little ridiculous. Vrabel and Robert Kraft don't put up with this nonsense. I don't understand what Stephon Diggs has been doing for the last 3 years. I didn't get the move out of Minnesota initially, but it was emotional. And then he's in
producing
the best
numbers
position he could ever ask for in Buffalo, and him and Josh Allen. And boy, did they blow up that relationship. And now he's lost. I have zero faith or hope in Stephon Diggs this year. And it's unfortunate because Drake May could really use the old Stephon Diggs in a big way.
I don't think you guys – I do want to acknowledge, because I feel it. I don't feel like you guys put enough respect on Stephon Diggs' name. Last year he was injured, and 5-6 years before that he made the Pro Bowl every year. His career is kind of crazy. I get the teams, obviously Minnesota, Buffalo, and then Houston. But the dude turns out numbers, bro. I think we got to, have 11,000 yards and 70 touchdowns in your career at 30 years old. It's not easy to do.
He hasn't done anything in the last 4 years.
Put some respect on that man's name.
No, it was the years in Buffalo.
He had 1,200 years the last 4 years.
He had 1,200 years.
1,200 yards.
1,200 yards in 4 years.
That's not good enough for AJ Irv?
No,
every year.
His last 4 years in Buffalo, he had 1,200 plus yards.
Should never left.
Season, along with 8+ touchdowns. Yeah,
Yeah.
which was 2 seasons ago. He had 1 year in Houston where he
You
got
don't think
injured.
he wanted that?
He didn't have a choice. He got traded.
To Herb's point, he was a locker room. We used to see him and Josh Allen get into it on the sideline and stuff like that. I think it was more of a let's get him out of the
Vrabel
locker
wants
room.
locker
I
room
never
guys.
said he was a good locker room guy. I just said he
That's a
produces
fact.
numbers.
Let's talk. Hey, let's get off Stephon Diggs. Let's talk about these New England Patriots as a whole. I'm excited about this one.
Why don't we?
Yeah.
I don't really. We talk. I think we skip over departures. There's not really much to speak on there. How do you guys feel as the team as a whole, as far as the draft picks and some players that are still there? They drafted and they brought in a lot of starters. I think we're going to see a little. I think it's like 7 to 10 new starters next year for New England.
I think where the conversation needs to start is bringing in Mike Vrabel. That hands down probably the best move, head coach wise, maybe outside of Ben Johnson to the Bears in the entire NFL. Like that fit in New England is seamless. It makes so much sense, and he is one of those coaches that players want to play for, right? He is a player's coach. He knows how to get the most out of his teams. And you can see that from his years in Tennessee, where he was leading Ryan Tannehill deep into the playoffs. Like, that should not have been happening. I know Derrick Henry had a lot to do with that, but he's just a really good coach. And it's a really young team. Yes, they brought in a lot of immediate starters, right? In free agent, they were the most active team in free agency. But I think the biggest outcome of that hire is the improvements that they will see further down in the roster. Just with him coming in and instilling his identity on that team. Like, it is going to be a no frills, you are playing for the team, not for yourself type of ship that he will be running. And I think in the past couple seasons since Bill left, it was more of almost like hero ball in a sense where players just seemed like they were trying to go out and get theirs. There wasn't so much of a team element to it all. But Herb, I know you have way more background with Mike Vrabel.
I loved Mike Vrabel as a Tennessee Titans head coach. I was very
give us your take on the New England Patriots, baby.
I think he was super smart in not taking a job in that immediate coaching rotation on the next one. He gave it some time, and I think it was super, super smart of him. That is, we're not going to see Belichick era Patriots football, but boy, are they going to try to do it. I said it about the Bills in the last one where we had some clips on that. The AFC East didn't get easier for the Bills, and I think the Patriots are going to have a piece in that. I'm not saying they're going to go out here and make a playoff berth, but don't be shocked when Mike Vrabel gets that team with a still developing Drake May, now under Josh McDaniels, who has had success as an offensive coordinator with young quarterbacks. Don't be surprised when the New England Patriots finish second at 500 in that division. Don't be shocked whatsoever.
And I think that's going to be the big storyline to follow this season is what do we see from Drake May? Because I think we saw big flashes from him in the start. Like once he took over for Brissett last season, you could see how the offense changed. It became so much more dynamic. And I'll be completely honest, going back to the draft last year when the Vikings had a high draft pick and we knew we were going to take a quarterback, I was holding out hope. I was praying to all the gods that somehow Drake May would fall into the Vikings' lap. I was so in on him and the intangibles, the character, just everything about him. He just screamed NFL cornerstone for a decade plus, right? And I honestly felt bad when he got drafted to New England due to just the team that was around him. Like he was not set up. Yeah, he was not set up for success in the slightest last season, where Who was his top receiver even
Probably
last
Kendrick
year? It
Bourne.
was Demario Douglas.
I tell you what, though, they built
or
around
Kendrick
him.
Bourne or something.
Yeah, it's not great.
And then you had Ramondre Stevenson, who took a massive step back, so you couldn't rely on that. And then you had Hunter Henry actually ended up having a pretty good season last year. So I won't disrespect his name, but yeah, not a lot of weapons, and for him to come out and kind of show what he did last
Yeah, I
season,
mean, they built around
like
Drake May.
if I'm a
It's
Patriots fan, I'm
awesome.
really excited.
I'll give to finish it off. I'll give my take on it. I will start off with I did watch there's a mini series that the Patriots are putting out on YouTube right now, similar to Hard Knocks, but I think it's even better done. It's just more in depth and less drama. Like I learned so much about Mike Vrabel just from that first episode because I've always been a Mike Vrabel fan, but I was like I just didn't know Mike Vrabel, inside and out, I guess. But that did help. So if you haven't seen that, go out and watch it on the Patriots
New
YouTube.
England
But anyway,
Patriots, we will be sending
no
an
free shout out.
invoice for the ad
Um,
space.
but Vrabel, yeah. But as far as the team as a whole, when I went through the preparing for this pod, I was just Vrabel came in and he looked at them being looks like last year they're almost dead last in offensive line. So what did he do? He went out and
Former
drafted Will
All-Pro.
Campbell. He went out and got Moses, Morgan Moses, who's right now projected to start at right tackle. Then as a team as overall, it does show a little bit of the draft and them trading down a handful of times, I think, to just get more players that they want. So on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, we're going to see 5 new start. At least as of right now with the depth chart, we're going to see 5 new starters on each side of the ball. And that's a pretty big overhaul from a player coming in first year. I'm excited to see. As far as I like what I've seen with Drake May, obviously with this Stephon Diggs situation, the wide receiver room up there is kind of mute. You got Demario Douglas,
Security
a former
blanket.
6th rounder. You got Matt Collins, which I guess is to me, it's a borderline wide receiver 4, maybe wide receiver 3. And then Hunter Henry. I do wish maybe that'll be their next year draft, but you got to get him some. You got a 32-year-old wide receiver. You got Matt Collins, who's probably a wide receiver 3 on most rosters, and a Demario Douglas. I don't know if that sets Drake May up for success.
That Kyle Williams kid might be emerge as the number 2 coming
going
out of
into
camp,
his second year
behind
but
Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, right now they have him. They have him back. They love the documentary I watched. I know I keep referencing it, but they love that guy. Multiple meetings with
Dude's a
him. They love his
burner, too.
personality. It seems Vrabel was all in on Kyle Williams, so that could be a guy. But I think the defense, we're gonna see a Titans. The type of defenses you saw, just those hard nosed defenses. He went out and got Carlton Davis, and then you got Christian Gonzalez on the other side, right? Who's arguably one of the best corners in the league. And then you overhauled the defensive line. You went out and got Harold Landry and Robert Spillane, who we all know are just hard-nosed guys, just motors out there. I know that's such a cheesy thing to say, but just guys that are going to go out there and give it your all, right? That's what you want on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's what Vrabel thrives in, and so he went out and made that happen. So I'm not going to say I'm going to cheer for the Patriots, but I'd like to see them do well. I just would. I'd like to see Vrabel do well. I'd like to see some competition some fun competition in the AFC East. Yeah. Otherwise, go Vrabel.
But I think, Rob, you really hit on the elephant in the room. Is Drake May set up for success? I think we can all agree that the wide receiver room again leaves a lot to be desired. Considering I would still pick Buffalo's wide receiver room 10 times over before I picked New England's. But I think the bigger concern that I have is related to their offensive line. It was not good last year. I know that they're replacing pretty much the entire line. I think 2 returners, 3 new starters. One of them a rookie, Garrett Bradbury, who I have a ton of experience with from his Minnesota days, which were not great. So I'm not high on that.
Signing Morgan Moses. They signed real quick. They signed Morgan Moses to a 3-year, like $31 or $34 million contract. And Morgan Moses, I'm pretty sure, is 33 or 34 years old. He is up there in age. So that one didn't make a lot of sense. You want to sign him on a 1-year flyer deal, fine.
Even older than that.
Transition and go find your right tackle of the future through free agency or the draft. But 3 years on Morgan Moses for 10, 11 million a year is kind of a lot of money. And they paid, dude, they spent 96 million in free agency and 100. I thought they had 76 or 96 in free cap.
It was way more than that.
I think
in total value, it was almost like $500 million.
Are you talking like overall contracts? I was just talking about
one final thought on additions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the total, like that, that number that they report on ESPN where it's like 3 years for
Milton Williams getting 4 years,
they're adding up that
$106 million.
total number across all those contracts. And it was like $500 million.
They paid Milton Williams. They paid Morgan Moses. I hope these guys work out for him. I think, it's going to come down to Vrabel and McDaniels. And boy, do I have some faith in them even being in an AFC team going against my Titans.
I do want to.
Oh, sorry. Go, Rob.
I was going to say the last thought. He wasn't listed under.
If you say Austin Hooper,
because I don't think he
say Austin Hooper
doesn't move a lot of needles, but I watched a lot of his tape when I was looking at.
Listen, I want to nip it in. I want to nip it in the. I want to nip it in the ass before you took us too far out of this thing. I mean, I get that they shouldn't quote us, but if you were about to give us an Austin Hooper take, I was going to have to find a new podcast.
No. I think he was Mr. Irrelevant this year. It was a corner out of Memphis, Kobe Minor. He didn't have a crazy year, but he was kind of a do-it-all player as far as fumbles, sacks. But that's just a guy to keep your eyes on. I don't know if, obviously, with having Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis starting, I don't know if he'll make like a nickel or something like that. But as Mr. Irrelevant, obviously we saw it with Brock Purdy. I like to see those guys succeed. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Kobe.
If he makes the team, you're buying a jersey.
Seems like a good player they got with the last pick of the draft.
Huh.
Green and yellow till I die, baby.
Before we get into our predictions and any bold predictions and final record predictions, I will say the Travion Henderson pick was one of my favorite picks of the entire draft. I was salivating at the thought of him on the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's going to take over RB1 from Ramondre very quickly. It's not going to be immediate, and I know that they will try and do the 1A, 1B type thing. But by season's end, Trayvon Henderson will be the guy in that room. And that's going to be a great thing.
I'll agree with that. And I think, they were sitting there at 4 talking about, we heard the rumors at 4. Is Genty a possibility? Is Genty a real possibility at 4? And I think the Patriots took a big step back and go, we can't take him at 4. We have bigger needs elsewhere. But as a consolation prize, you get Travion Henderson, which granted he's a holdout with these second-round guys, but yeah, I agree. I bet you by week 4, he's just starting running back. He's going to get the bulk of the carries. Ramondre's going to come in and he's going to be the bruiser, and Henderson's going to have to be the lightning in that one. And that's the model that the NFL has found to work right now in today's game.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make it fun and also kind of how
that's
I
fantasy
feel.
ownership.
I love me some Ramondre Stevenson, baby. I do like Travion Henderson as a player, but he also Travion Henderson also has a lot of wear and tear on that body, man. I think he started 4 years at Ohio State. And we all know with running backs, it's kind of the name of the game, right? Is the wear and tear. Obviously, we've seen Nick Chubb and others be able to battle through it. But the Todd Gurleys of the world, just people that the wear and tear just eventually takes its toll. But I have high hopes for the guy. Obviously, I want Stevenson to get his lick in, but I hope they do more of a 2 running back type system up there with both of those cats.
Okay, fellas, let's get into our record predictions, and then if you have any bold takes you want to throw out there and get on the record.
I said when we first started talking about them, I think 500 is not outside of the realm of possibility, and I think that puts them in the number 2 spot in the AFC East. Probably not looking at a wild card, but Vrabel does nothing but win wherever he goes. He's going to right that ship. In terms of a hot take, the Drake May quarterback class. It's Jaden, it's Caleb, that's Bo Nix, correct? Why am I feel like I'm brain farting on that one. I think all those quarterbacks will be very good. I think we're going to start to see some of those guys maybe have a little sophomore slump, but like CJ Stroud. So my hot take is that Drake May will have the best season. I don't know statistically, but maybe optically, which would lead to being higher up in there in the statistics. But out of that group of quarterbacks, I think he will have the best second year. Of them, but the best second year out of those quarterbacks. Robert, let's hear it.
All right, boys. You want me to go?
Yep, hit me.
My prediction, I want to see them succeed. I mean, just looking at it, obviously, we already covered the Bills. We'll talk about the Dolphins eventually, but I have the Bills fighting with the Jets for third and fourth. It's going to be either or. I think we'll see some progression. We'll see the team kind of come together. But there's definitely I'm seeing, as far as my prediction goes, 6-7 wins. I also, there's a lot of unknowns there. Like if Stephon Diggs for some reason comes back and he's just a locker room guy and turns into Drake May's number 1 target, obviously I can change. My prediction changes a little bit, but as it stands right now, we just don't have the targets that are going to win you a lot of football games in the NFL. You're going to squeeze some away with the rushing game and maybe with the defense, but give me 6, possibly on the high, anywhere from 5 to 7. And you'll be competing with the Jets. I think the Miami finished second, but I think you'll be finishing 3rd or 4th in the division.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Rob. I want to preface this by saying I'm a big fan of pretty much everything New England did this offseason. I think in the long run, these moves are beneficial for what they are trying to build. In terms of this season specifically, I am hard pressed to say, with looking at that offense, that they will win more than 5 or 6 games max. And I lean more the 5-win side. In terms of hot takes, I have a couple, and they kind of contradict themselves a little bit, where I think Trayvon Henderson will finish with the second most rushing yards out of this rookie class behind Genty. I think Kyle Williams will finish top 3 in receiving yards compared to the rest of the class. But then the offense as a whole, I'm predicting will finish bottom 5.
You don't like McDaniels, huh?
As a bottom 5 offense this season. I wasn't high on them, before we started this podcast or this episode. But now that I'm actually like digging deep into what this depth chart looks like, it looks like a house of horrors, to be honest with you. Outside of a couple of gems, it does not look great, and a couple gems isn't gonna make you a great offense in the NFL. Unfortunately, this is very much you need a cohesive 11-man unit out there to succeed. So those are probably my bold takes. I will throw out there. I also think Christian Gonzalez. He was second team All Pro last season. I think he will get his first team All Pro nod.
In Vrabel we trust, baby. In Vrabel we trust. Really bold.
That's just kind of my prediction. So, fellas, to end the episode, we did get some follower submitted hot takes for us to discuss. We have a handful of them, so we'll save
little promo here. Episodes, little promo. If you haven't already followed or liked, subscribed, whatever that looks like, Instagram, we post a bunch of stuff on there, a bunch of things for people to interact with. So if you want your take heard or read off and rated, go ahead and throw it on in at us.
Good call out. To get started, I think the one that was most intriguing to me when I started thinking about it more, and it's also super relevant to the conversations we've been having today. We had one follower submit his take, which was Anthony Edwards' ceiling isn't as high as everyone thinks it is. His career not a bad take at all. Parallel James Harden.
It's not a bad.
Yeah, at the first time I read that, I was like, I almost felt disrespected. I was like, how dare he compare James Harden or Anthony Edwards to James Harden? But then I took a step back and I'm like, is there not worse things in the world than to have a career like James Harden did? Outside of everything in playoff wise, right? But just in general, at his peak, he was a top 3 player in this league for a couple years stretch there. Is that the worst thing in the world?
For me, obviously, I was going to say, for me, James Harden, I think that we think of James Harden the last few years that we've seen him, and obviously people forget the chokehold James Harden had on the NBA in the early 2010s. I think he had a nice, it might have been 10, 12 year stretch of finishing in the MVP voting. I know he won one, I think. He finished second a few times, third, and leading the league in scoring multiple years. So if you I don't think it's a bad take at all. I think when you think about it, obviously, you, as a Timberwolves fan yourself, if he has the career like James Harden and no ring like James Harden, it's a little bit tough to swallow. But as far as overall careers, James Harden hasn't had a bad career at all, man. And when you think about, some of the others, especially the longevity that James Harden is playing at.
Yeah, it's a Hall of Fame career where the peaks were very high.
No, but no
I
rings.
Don't think
that's the tough part.
Floor was ever that
That's
low.
the tough part.
Yeah, I will say I don't hate the take.
No, it's the whole thing, baby. It's all encompassing.
The playoff.
You are destined to lose in the Western Conference Finals year after year after year.
Because if you told me right now, looking. Because if you were to ask me, which would I take? Obviously, I would take him being a lesser player than what James Harden was, if that meant more postseason success. Any day of the week, it's no question about it. But if anything, if it does come down to it, for him personally, if I hang up my cleats and I had a career like James Harden, it's a Hall of Fame career. I'm not going to be
James Harden. Anthony Edwards, new James Harden. Look out!
If I was him. Okay. Could be. Let's see. For the last take, we'll go over for this episode. We had one follower submit the following. The Washington Commanders will be worse this year. Their roster is all aging veterans.
I don't feel as confident in that take as the the other one. I do think that they went a lot farther last year than what the team was built for, I guess, in that first year run. But as far as aging veterans, I mean, let me pull up this depth chart quick here.
Well, I know they brought back Ertz. They brought back Bobby Wagner. They brought in an older Debo. Those are just off the top of my head.
Yeah, but you also have Scary Terry, Michael Gallup,
And
Noah
Josh
Brown.
Connerly.
I mean, they brought in Laramie Tunzel, who's just going to be your focal point of a left tackle. And they brought in a bunch of dudes on the defensive side. While I do agree there are some vets here that are a little bit older, like the Bobby Wagner, but who in the NFL would not want Bobby Wagner in their locker room? And that's just, I mean, he's never played for my team or anything, but I just, from what I hear from him as a person and as a leader, I think that's kind of a recipe for building success. I mean, if you're drafting rookies and bringing young guys in, you're going to want them around the right people. And, and if that is Laramie Tunzel on that side of the ball, left tackle, obviously Laramie Tunzel is the guy that hit a bong at
He didn't hit it on draft night. It was just
right?
released.
Wasn't that
It's
him?
not like he was smoking weed in the green
He's gone
room.
past that. He's a vet now, but he's a good guy, I think.
Hey, they don't test in the NFL for that anymore. Okay. The mask.
No, he was doing the full gas mask.
It was the
People don't forget, Laramie.
full thing.
People don't forget.
Yeah, but other than that,
yes.
But they do test for colored creatine.
But it's not like we're talking about a quarterback that's over the edge and the wide receiver room is super old. Those pieces you can have, a longer vet there and still be just as fine as a team. I don't have an issue with it. So as far as this guy's
I don't agree
take,
with the take as a whole.
It's a rough take in my eyes, baby.
I think Jaden won't be as electric next year. I think that's just sophomore slump. CJ Stroud just went through it. CJ is going to be fine. Jaden will get through it. He'll be fine. But as a whole, I think they're still a playoff team. I think they're still going to make a run. They're a fun football team to watch. I don't hate the moves that they made. They went out and got one of the best left tackles in the NFL. They drafted a right tackle who will be their future left tackle. He was one of the top tackles in the draft. You go out and get Debo, who, granted, he's chubby, but hey, he can do things with the ball that a lot of people in the NFL can't. And Scary Terry needs to be – the NFL, I feel like, has done him an injustice in not putting a spotlight on that guy. But, yeah. No. But, no, that takes me.
I mean, it's not like he's demanding it, but – yeah, so last season they finished 12. Yeah, last season they finished 12-5. So I guess the real question is, what constitutes a worse season? Is it not finishing 12-5? Is it not making it to the NFC Championship again? Which, to Rob's point, I think was maybe a bad thing for them, where it almost kind of heightened the expectations moving forward for them now. Whereas other teams may get the benefit of the doubt of kind of easing into it with a younger quarterback like that, not expecting the world out of him. If we're looking at it by just wins and losses, yes, I am hard pressed to say that they'll win 12 games again. Yes, I'm hard pressed to say they are for sure going to make it back to the NFC title, or even say that they have a good shot at the NFC title. But looking at their division, it's hard to say that outside of the Eagles, I'm not super stressed out about the Cowboys right now. I'm not super stressed out about the Giants in the slightest, right? So I think they're for sure a playoff team the way it currently stands. Whether or not you think that is worse than last year, so be it. But I think they are still very early on in this timeline that they have with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. So I think they have time. So even if they don't make it back to the NFC title game this season, I think their best years are a couple years down the line. But I do think there is a lot of potential with this team.
All right, boys.
Fellas, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
the time per usual. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to episode 3. Like Herb said, please make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe. Tell everybody you know that cares a lick
Please.
about sports to give us a listen, and honestly, give us your feedback because we want to try and get better
Not a
at this. We have no idea what we're doing except talking sports, right?
All right, boys.
But we'll leave it at that, and we will talk to you guys next time.